Nancy Fallon, agronomist with Winfield United, here to talk to you about collecting tissue samples. When you start to collect them, of course, you've got to be crop specific. You have to choose the optimal leaves, not the super dirty leaves. In general, you're utilizing the most uppermost portion, the one that is the most recently mature. You want to have healthy tissue, so not a whole bunch of damaged and yucky stuff all over it with diseases. Avoid the field edges always. You need to collect sufficient amount of material so that it can be analyzed. So if you don't have enough, like with corn, if it's pre-V5, then you need to do about the size of a baseball. You need to randomize your selection process, so a W or an X across the field, or doing a diagonal across the whole field. You want to make sure that you avoid contamination. So if you've been working out doing stuff with fertilizer, of course, you do not want to go and tissue sample after that. So usually doing it first thing in the morning when you're nice and clean. So having clean clothes and clean hands and your sampling supplies that are clean. So if you don't want to lay your tissue sample bags out in the back of your truck. So I usually put mine in a tote, and then I've got it all sealed up so that they're nice and clean. At the field, once you get there, if you smell any chemicals at all, or you see any spots on the leaves from nutrients and fungicides, first thing that you need to do is not go in until you are sure what it is on the field. Check and see with the farmer and the crop advisor. You want to sample in the morning after the dew, not when you're irrigating. Your samples need to not be done when it's especially hot or especially cold, because that can impact the tissue content as far as the nutrients. Utilize your NutriSolutions bag that's provided so that it will breathe, because it has little air holes on it. If you are not going to be able to get it to the lab right away, then you can refrigerate it overnight or keep it in your air-conditioned house until the next day when you can drop it off. If you're mailing it, make sure that you utilize next day air shipping. For corn growth, you start with your V stages or your vegetative stages for emergence, and then you count up till you get to tasseling or VT. Then it swaps over to the R stages or the reproductive stages. For corn, in the vegetative stages, you collect the uppermost collared leaf. So the one that's the farthest up on the plant that has a collar. So you can see it right at the base. If it doesn't have a collar, that's not the one you want to select. When you get to VT and R1, in the NutriSolutions app, the tasseling at VT is not listed as an option to choose in the growth stage, but it is still important that you note that in your sample ID for field forecasting tool and being able to have where we can watch the nutrient trends. So from VT and any of the R stages, we need to collect the ear leaf. So when you look at the plant, here on the left, you're looking at the field that you're walking into. So walk into the field, you've avoided the edges, you've come in, and you're going to start collecting your tissue sample. So then here on the right hand side, you can see that's your uppermost colored leaf. So you pinch it off right at the base next to the plant, and that is what you collect, is your 30 to 35 uppermost colored leaves. Now for the ear leaf, once you go to VT or tasseling and into your reproductive stages, then you're collecting the ear leaf, which is the one that's right next to the ear. Okay, we're going to swap gears to potatoes. When you are sampling potatoes, it's the fourth petiole that you're collecting. So you're starting at the very top, looking down on the plant, and then you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth petiole down, or the one that is the most, or is the first fully mature leaf. That's what you're going to be collecting. So you strip the petioles off, or strip the leaves off of the petiole, save the petiole or the little stem, and that's what you collect. 30 to 35 of those. So you're going to have a handful from each field. For your growth stage in the NutriSolutions app, you need to mark whether it's at hooking, tuber initiation, early, mid, or late tuber bulking. Okay, so for looking at what one you need to collect from a real sample, here you can see the first leaf. Let me draw it out for you. Here you have your first leaf, your second leaf, your third leaf, and then marking here is your fourth leaf. Okay, to give you a visual of the growth stages so that you can think through this, if you look at early on, of course, we have planting, and then we have sprout development, then we have some more vegetative growth that goes on. The big key that we want to focus for, if we have it, is tuber initiation. So that's this point right in here. That's a big key. And then you're going to continue on with your tuber bulking, and it's going to go across there. So then we look at the next. Okay, so here's the key for you to remember. When you look at this hook, this is right here, you notice this little tiny hook on the end. That's why they call it the hook stage. Then when you have swelling, that's your next stage. So then you have it swollen and it's gotten bigger. Alright, you can still see the rest of the hook that's left. And then once it gets to this tuber initiation phase down here at the bottom, you'll see this little swelling at the end of the stolon. So let's look at a plant, and you can see it for real. The first one was a visual to show you. Now we'll look at it for real in the plant. So here you have the hooking right in here. And then you go to swelling. And then your tuber initiation is here at the end. And so then you can see that you've got some other bigger tubers that have come on. So you're going to have a mix of different growth stages that are going on, but this would all be considered tuber initiation that you would mark on your NutriSolutions app. It's important to note the growth stage because the farmer is going to need to put on different nutrients depending on what stage the potato crops are at so that they get adequate nutrients. Okay, now we're going to go to alfalfa. Get to go across that beautiful alfalfa field, walk across it, and you're going to snip off or pinch off the top 4 to 5 inches of that alfalfa plant. In the NutriSolutions app, you either need to mark whether it's before cutting or it's a regrowth. I typically do before cutting because we're collecting the tissue sample right before it's going to be cut, and then after it's cut is a great time for us to apply nutritional products that the alfalfa needs. So usually I select the before cutting. I'm ready to sample the alfalfa field and enjoy the beautiful scenery. So I've gone across the field, I've avoided the field edge, I've gone in and I'm pinching off the top 4 to 5 inches. You can see the sample here on the right of some of the ones that I was collecting. So I need to do 30 to 35 like I have here on the right hand side. So I need to do 30 to 35 like that. For the alfalfa growth stages, you're going from 0 to 9. Most of the time what we're going to focus on is going to be growth stage 2 through 6 because that's when it's late vegetative or early bud. Those are the times that we usually are focusing on for high quality premium hay. Sometimes we may be going on to late bud where we have 3 or more nodes with buds. And then once that it starts flowering, then you're going into growth stage 5, and that's where you have 1 node that has an open flower. Late flower, you have 2 or more nodes. Woo! that have open flowers. If we go with the early bud stage, or stage 3, we have one node per stem that has a small tight bud. The easiest way to do it is to feel it. The buds are those irregular masses that are found on the ends of the leaves. You can see it kind of right here in the center. That's where you would have some of the buds at. For the late bud stage 4, you have the 2 nodes with the visible buds. So you can see that they've started to bud there. Okay, that takes us through the basics of NutriSolutions tissue sampling and how to collect them. Happy sampling!